Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Coin Drop podcast. This is beta episode 12, if I'm not mistaken, and we're back after a short week hiatus. My wife was out of town last week, so I was unable to do the podcast because I had to put my daughter to sleep. So that didn't really happen last week. Tim, how you been, man? It's been a couple weeks.
It's been a rough one too. I'm in the middle of singles right now. That's wonderful. We don't have power in my house, and there's something else I was meaning to mention. But yeah, it's been rough. Oh yeah, I'm rotating contractors, so Monday I'm somewhere else new. So that'll be interesting.
Sounds really annoying. I don't envy you. I will be at the same place on Monday, as I always am, at work. So for our video, I guess our Twitch viewers right now, you're going to notice that there's not really anything to look at. Reason being for that is we have just a stupid amount of topics, and there's no way I'm...
Packed episode.
Yeah, like it's there's so many things for us to talk about today with all of the showcases that have happened in the last week and a half that there was just no way I was going to get footage of everything we're going to talk about. So enjoy our logo and our bright smiling faces and Tim's glitchy face because he's at his parents and his internet ain't great. So audio listeners, I do apologize if this audio podcast sounds kind of weird because we do record locally and then mix them together. But if I can't hear him, he's going to have to repeat himself. That might come across in the audio version. So we'll see what Mike does working his magic with our final mix. Hopefully there's not too much repetitive conversation and, hey, can you repeat that? But we'll see. So starting off, Tim,
We'll see.
Final Fantasy XVI, they released a demo, right? And if I'm not mistaken, they said that the save from the demo carries over into the final game. Have you had a chance to play that?
That actually is correct. It's actually in the demo itself. As soon as you turn it on, it tells you that if you decide to buy the full game, the data transfers over. So yes, I have downloaded the demo. I was on the fence about it because I wanted to go in as blind as possible, but the hype behind it, everyone was talking about it on Reddit and everything else. I couldn't help myself. And then once I found out that everything transfers over, I was like, okay, yeah, sure, let's go ahead and give it a shot. And how do I say this in such a way that the praise comes across as genuine as possible? Because I pretty much fully expect this to become my all-time favorite Final Fantasy, like ever. I've been huge into Final Fantasy since the beginning. Final Fantasy VI has held that top spot for the past 20 some odd years, almost 30 years, and I'm just like, holy shit. I think one of them might actually compete. I don't even know how to talk about all of it, dude. Yoshi P and Takai, the main director behind the game, have done such a phenomenal job on the game. The only real thing I can talk about that being annoyances or are super minor, and really there's some frame rate dips every so often, but it's in areas where it doesn't really cause any problems with gameplay, and the animation quality is a little, like, just ever so slightly, you can kind of notice a little bit of funkiness in gameplay, and that's when you're running. You can kind of, there's something about it just feels not jarring, but it's not as smooth and fluid as the clearly mocapped stuff in the cinematics.
Gotcha.
But man, the voice acting, the storyline, the storyline for the prologue, man, it was just like, oh my god, constant, like, oh shit, that just happened. And then the way it ends at the end, you're like blown away by what just happened. You're like, oh, really? And then it ends, you're like, oh. And I'm sitting here waiting until Thursday. I'm so desperate, man. I want to play it so bad.
So
I'm ready. My body is ready.
You're saying it's better than 6? Because I know 6 has been your all-time favorite for a very long time.
Yes, I'm practically in zero doubt that it's going to take the top spot. And that's not just for me. I fully, 100% expect this game to become argumentative over if it's better than 7 for most people. I honestly think that it's going to be in the circle where people are like, 7's better. They're like, no, 16's better. And I don't know which one's going to win out. For me, I think 16 is going to be better because I prefer more the fantasy style than the futuristic style.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, 7's a great game, but I fully expect there to be arguments for a long time to come now after this one.
I feel like the only place you're going to see that argument is in our generation, right? Like, I'm pretty sure anybody younger than us is probably just going to say 16's the greatest of all time because they probably started playing around 10, would be my guess. So in the younger generation, you're probably going to just hear flat out 16's the greatest, which is actually kind of cool because that means, like, I don't know. It's interesting to see how such a long-running franchise like Final Fantasy has generationally, like, what the best game is for a generation, so to speak, a generation of people, not necessarily a generation of consoles. So that's really going to be fun to see our generation going, okay, well, 7's still great because we have all that nostalgia tied to it, but 16 arguably objectively being better. I don't even think you could compare them outside of, like, the memories we have of 7 being great, because if you sat down and played 7 today, unless you're really into turn-based games and you already love 7, kind of like what we talked about last episode with KOTOR, if you already love the game, it's easy to go back and play. If you never played it before, playing 7 originals, compared to 16, it's hands down better. And I haven't even played 16. That's just
really at this point. I was gonna say, really the only thing at this point that people would really be able to compare 16 to as far as 7 is concerned is the remake. And they're still wildly different, but similar enough because they both have pretty fast-paced combat. 7's is a little bit different than 16. 16 is so similar to something like Devil May Cry or another fast-paced action game of its style that it's drastically different from even the 7 remake.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear it. I gotta be honest, I've talked to the wife a couple of times now. I'm like, man, do I want to just break down and buy a PS5 at this point, right? Like, you got that, you got God of War Ragnarok, you got Spider-Man 2, you got Final Fantasy coming. Yeah, got Horizon, got the PSVR 2 with exclusive Resident Evil VR. There's a couple of things that I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I remember that, like, oh yeah, Diablo 4 is out and season 1 starts in July. And I have lost six hardcore characters now and have not made it through Act 1. So I don't think I'm moving on from Diablo 4 anytime soon.
For a minute,
yeah. So I don't know. We'll see if there's something that, like, I feel like, damn, I really got to play that the day it comes out. Or if they release a co-op game that actually, like, straight up exclusive to PlayStation that you're going to get, I'll probably end up buying a PS5. But for now, sticking with PC. Speaking, however, on Diablo 4, the game's been out for about 10 days now, I think, officially. About 10 days. By the time people hear this recording, will be a little bit more than that. But they recently, I think yesterday, did a post-launch live stream kind of dev chat. Yeah, they called it like the Diablo 4 campfire or something like that. And they announced some stuff that's coming, some balance changes and things like that. They're addressing some of the issues that hardcore characters have had. So I don't know if you heard about this. The only person to get to level 100 that was in hardcore got to level 100. Got his name on the list for the statue engraving on Lilith at Blizzard, and before he even went to fight Lilith, his computer disconnected from the internet. And in hardcore, when that happens and you're not in town, it kills your character. So feel like that's the worst.
Yeah, I actually read that they were talking about basically not killing your character when they do that.
Yeah. There's what they're doing is, so there's an item that exists only in hardcore called Scroll of Escape or something like that, and it's something that even in a boss battle you can use and teleport back to town. So what they're doing, they're extremely rare items, but they do exist. So what they're planning on doing is making it so even if you don't use that, if you have one in your inventory, and I don't know when this update's going to come. They said it was going to come in a fix soon. They said, I think, before Season 1, so in the next couple of weeks. If you have one of those Scrolls of Escape in your inventory and your internet goes down, it'll use it and send you back to town rather than delete your character. So it only saves you if you have one. The reason for that, again, is to keep people from Alt F4ing if they're going to die and cheesing the hold hardcore situation. So I think it's a really good fix. I think it's a really good balance between like allowing people to save their hardcore character if something like that happens, but not making it something that can be abused, I guess. So I think that's a really good middle ground.
It seems like a decent decent middle ground. However, people would still just Alt F4 if necessary. My real concern with the game is I've actually seen a few videos. Like there's actually one guy, he spent 170 hours on his hardcore character. He finished some nightmare dungeon. It doesn't matter which one. I literally watched in the stream. He'd hit the button to teleport back to town, and he did so. When he teleported, like when the game reloaded back in when he was in town, he was dead for no reason whatsoever. And yeah, he was unhappy about it. He was very unhappy about it.
There are definitely some bugs they're still working on. That's really fucking unfortunate. I haven't had anything like that happen on a hardcore character for me. All of my characters died legitimately in the field, which is just as heartbreaking, I would argue. But I mean, when you die in hardcore, it's just one of those things where you just go, like you just kind of, it deflates you pretty hard. It's one of those like
I get to play one.
You should play tonight hardcore. It'll be fun. Well, maybe not on your internet because you'll disconnect and be dead immediately.
Well, I'm not. I don't have my PlayStation with me, so I can't.
Fair enough. But yeah, so they're doing some stuff. They're changing some things. A lot of people complaining about minor shit. I feel like Diablo 4 has gone into, I don't know, a wider audience than the games before it, right?
Oh yeah.
So we're getting a lot of, I don't want to call them general gamers, but like people that don't understand what Diablo is bitching about things that is Diablo. And it's just
it sounds about right.
Dude, I don't get what's gotten into gamers where they think that like, oh, well, it doesn't have this, and they need to have this. Blah, fuck. Like, dude, who the fuck do you think you are to make any kind of demands? Requests are one thing, but like demands,
I think it was
fuck
a
off.
DICE developer. I think it was a DICE developer with Battlefield one time, where someone like there was enough people complaining about like Battlefield 3 or something like that, and he goes, "Look at all these armchair developers," and he got ripped a new asshole for that comment. But he's 100% accurate. It's like just because your game's popular and more people play it now doesn't mean that you could bully people or the developers into doing something that they shouldn't or that doesn't fit their game or whatever. Just look at Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 right now. The game is, they've been listening to their fan base and the game sucks ass now because of it. They've been listening to the fan base and they've just been ruining their game. And it's just a perfect example. There needs to be a proper balance, and if you guys, you're going to play what we give you, and I see why that's a good idea. Let's maybe consider it. I get it.
There's a difference between requests for balance tweaks, requests for quality of life features, and demanding, right? There's a huge difference there. And dude, it was so painful to sit there and watch the campfire and the devs having to explain that development takes time, and that just because a feature wasn't in the game at launch doesn't mean it's never gonna be. And people going, whoa, it's in Diablo 3. Yeah, Diablo 3's 10 years old. 10.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, of course there's going to be shit in Diablo 3 that's not in Diablo 4. Did you want him to take another 10 years to make this game? I didn't.
Yeah, right. And not only that, the game launched in a phenomenal state.
Yes.
Sure, it's got bugs and it's not perfect, but wow, it's launching pretty great.
For a live service multiplayer game to launch in the state it launched is pretty damn impressive in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. With that said, just a tiny little step back to Final Fantasy XVI. They actually announced that it was going to launch without a day one patch, but due to those aforementioned issues that I brought up, they actually said there will be a day one patch now. Just so you guys are aware.
Well, that's disappointing, but still really cool that was the goal was to get there without one. Really cool.
Yeah. They listened to the feedback based on the demo and such, and they're like, yeah, we probably should. And apparently it's supposed to be like a 300 megabyte patch, something like that. But anyway, back to the app.
Yeah, so, I mean, overall, I'm thrilled with the game. A lot of people bitching about having to redo alts and redo the Fog of War and redo all of the, side quests and stuff like that. I'm like, do you understand what it means to have an alt character? Have you guys never played an online game before? Because, like, that's how it works. Did
Yeah,
any of
that's
you
literally the
play
point.
any
It's
MMO
the-
at any point in your life?
It's the reason why seasons exist
Yeah.
in games like that, so you can play it again.
Yeah. Yep.
And earn new rewards that they implement and things of that sort. Like that's the reason they exist.
Overall,
People are
I'm just tired of scrolling through news feeds and seeing people bitch on Reddit about Diablo 4. So hopefully, eventually, that dies down. Hopefully, Seasons kind of addresses a lot of stuff and people stop whining. That's the hope.
Really, the only thing I want is it feels like in tier 2, it's so much harder, which isn't really much harder, but like just bear with me. It's so much harder to kill an enemy that it's not worth the additional 20% EXP. So.
Yeah. That's
like you might as well just be in tier 1.
That's actually a real common complaint, and it's an accurate one. It's an accurate one.
So there's that, but also which this is another common complaint, which they did address at the fireside chat or whatever it's called, that there's no real good social features. So for me, I was struggling with those dungeons that give you the aspects, and I couldn't just find somebody that was outside of the dungeon and say, hey, you want to run this together? I just had to try it myself and fail ultimately. And then that was when I was like, you know what? After the previous thing, I was like, I'm just going to go to tier 1 and do it myself, whatever. So it kind of sucks because I want it to be harder, but I couldn't finish a single one by myself. So I just go ahead and went back.
Yeah, Diablo 4 is very unlike Diablo 3. It's taken me a long time to really nail down my early leveling build for my hardcore character, to balance survivability with damage output to be able to do those things by myself. But yeah, I understand. Like, there's some difficulty curve there for sure when you're playing on World Tour Tier 2. If you're not like super deep diving into gear and specs and blah, 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 all that shit. But that's besides the point. Diablo 4 is a great game. There are some things that need to be fixed. There are some things that will be fixed. There are some quality of life changes that people would like. There are some that will be coming. So it's a live service game. We'll continue to improve. That's how live service works, or how it's supposed to work. But with that, let's go ahead and move on and talk about a game that's not live service. Well, I mean, kind of, right? So, like, Prince of Persia, the new one, I guess they completely canned the remake of Sands of Time, and now we've got
they haven't actually,
really, because there's zero mention of it at all for a very long time now.
They did talk about it. They said it's still in development, but that's like the max we've got. This is a different project entirely.
Yeah,
and I just thought it looked pretty damn good.
Dude,
I was like, wow, that looks fun as shit.
Yeah, it looks like they struck a real great balance between the acrobatics of Sands of Time and the classic 2D side-scroller of the original Prince of Persia. Real big fan of the art style, the direction, the combat. It all just generally looks really solid. So
the only real criticism I had was the music style they chose. I thought that was really dumb, but that seems to be on most trailers these days. They pick crappy music. But otherwise, yeah, no, I thought the game looked pretty phenomenal. It had a really fast-paced combat that's like almost reminiscent of something you'd see in like a Castlevania.
Yeah.
But like heck, even more fast-paced and frenetic than that. But like it just looked like it was going to be a pretty solid game. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah. We did see, I gotta say, dude, of the conferences I've seen, which I've seen Sony, we watched that one, we talked about it. I watched Microsoft, I watched Future Game Show, Intel Future Game Show, which was a lot of super artistic indies I wasn't into. I watched Ubisoft. I haven't gotten a chance to watch Capcom, but I watched Ubisoft. Basically, of those 3 that I've seen, and Summer Games Fest, of those 4, I gotta say, I think Ubisoft was the best show. In terms of like just what they had to show,
quality titles,
right? Quality titles, stuff that I personally cared about. With that said, though, I'm interested to see Project Jade, Assassin's Creed Project Jade. I signed up for that. I have an NVIDIA Shield TV now, so like I can hook up. That's basically runs Android, so you can actually download Android games to it and then play them with the controller. Yeah. So I'm like, that'd be a great game to play on this. I'll never play it on my phone, but if I get it, same with Ever Crisis Final Fantasy. One thing that's very concerning for me about the new Assassin's Creed Mirage, the gameplay looked really good. Wasn't a fan of the magical teleporty assassination thing. That did you not see that?
I guess I somehow missed that.
Yeah, so it's at the very end of the trailer, the gameplay, I guess, when he goes to assassinate that target. He jumps down on him, assassinates him, and then it goes into this slow-mo thing where he clicks like 3 other targets, or maybe he does it before he jumps down, and then he like teleports to one, kills him, teleports to another, kills him, and then teleports to the third one and kills him. It's super mysticism bullshit, and I'm like, I'm not a fan of that. That's not like you went back to a grounded Assassin's Creed and then gave us some magic power bullshit.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched like freaking 200 trailers over the past few days, so maybe I just missed that somehow. But I mean, yeah. Ultimately, you know what? You're probably talking about the gameplay trailer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch the gameplay trailer. I watched the story or trailer or whatever you call it.
Gotcha.
So that's why I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, if you look up the gameplay, at the very end, he goes to assassinate his first target, and up until that point, it looks great. He tries to use the eagle to go find his target, and they like shoot an arrow at him, and it's like, oh, you can't do this. I really love that because it changed the dynamic of the game. That was fucking cool. You can't just like, oh, look, there he is, go blah blah blah. Fucking, they made it like he had to go in and find the archers, take them out, then he could use the bird to identify his target. And then like right as he's going to kill him, he does this teleporting bullshit. And if I remember correctly, there was another Assassin's Creed where you could actually assassinate more than one target, right? Like you could do 2 if they were next to each other.
Yeah, you could like throw knives or things like that.
But
yeah,
I want to say it was 3. You could assassinate a third target by doing 1, or you could do 1, hit him, then you'd run forward, get the other one, and then throw a knife at the third one. And I, for the life of me, don't understand why they didn't bring that mechanic back and instead went with like this weird magic teleporty bullshit in a game that they're trying to make more grounded. So I don't know what the fuck that's about, but I'm kind of annoyed.
It's just a little strange. I don't know why they would do something like that. I'm trying to find it in this gameplay trailer. You said it was at the end, right?
Yeah, it's towards the end. But
either way, just thinking about it is weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna use it because like
it's part of the game and it's going to be helpful.
Right. But it's one of those things like, from a design choice, I don't understand why they did that. I'm hoping there's something that explains it at some point narratively so it gives it a reason for happening, but I'm not holding my breath.
I mean, you do have to give them a little bit of credit in the past. They've explained a lot of things that you wouldn't have really expected them to explain. So hopefully they will with this. I mean, hell, they went all the way to explain why you have eagle vision that doesn't have an eagle. So I can see them explaining it, although I'm still trying to figure out how it would work. But then again, I guess you can consider they're aliens, so maybe he finds some of the alien technology. Or
that was kind of my thought is, with the Piece of Eden from the very first Assassin's Creed, maybe he finds something, some old tech that allows him to do it. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that there's an actual explanation, not just like, we thought it was a cool mechanic. Yeah. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm still a little concerned that it's going to be open world and way bigger than it should be, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we're seeing, like, I will say the movement seemed kind of robotic to me. Like the free climbing, the free running, it doesn't look as smooth as even Unity did. Like Unity was the epitome of their movement system, and I don't know what happened, but they seem to have lost that tech or whatever they did, because Unity had by far the best parkour system that they've ever made, and I don't know what's happened to it, but then we had Assassin's Creed VR, which they showed very little of, but cool.
Did they even show any gameplay of it? What I saw was all cinematic.
Yeah, it seemed all cinematic, so I don't know.
Which, the way I look at it now, I'm actually kind of disappointed because they didn't announce it for PlayStation VR, so that seems extremely stupid and a big missed opportunity. Perhaps it's just exclusive for a little bit.
It's probably a timed exclusive.
They didn't really... Probably, but the thing is like they didn't really announce anything. Like, other than the fact that it's Assassin's Creed in VR, what type of game is it going to be? It's it's got the hub for multiple different Assassin's Creed, Ezio and Alexandra and whatnot. But like, okay, can you swap at will? Are they going to be like little experiences? Like, what is it?
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah, and they didn't give us any of that. On the other hand, we got a lot from a Star Wars game I didn't expect to see. Very, very cool Star Wars game. Star Wars Outlaws, super cool. Little disappointed it's not Han, but at the same time, they have a lot more freedom to do whatever the fuck they want because it's not Han.
What are you talking about? It's not Han. Her name's John Solo. Like it's obvious that it's Han Solo. It's just a female.
Totally.
I've renamed her John Solo. By the way. So.
All right. John Solo. She's John Solo. Okay.
Yeah, she's John, like JAN.
Okay. JAWN
instead of HAN.
Yeah. All right. It looks cool though. Open world, seamless transition to space. That's pretty fucking dope. It reminded me a lot.
We're gonna get to this. We're gonna get to this later. Seamless transition to space. Star Wars has it. Starfield doesn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to
that's an interesting one. There's not much to say there, man. If you guys haven't seen the trailer for Star Wars Outlaws, seriously go watch the gameplay. It looks really fucking good.
I think it looks really good, honestly. The gameplay they showed, it looks like it's gonna. It looks like it's gonna be. I read one thing that said it was basically GTA Star Wars, and I'm like, no, I didn't feel that at all. I felt more like. Man, like it doesn't even look like a Far Cry. It felt like it almost felt like Star Wars Fallen Order, but open. So like almost even like Horizon Zero Dawn ish. I don't know. I think it looks really solid. Honestly.
I got kind of like I could kind of see the GTA thing. I kind of thought that too, just because like
that's my wife,
quote unquote wanted levels and stuff like that. So to speak, but it definitely has a lot more RP aspect to it than a regular GTA game does, right? Like she had the choice to bribe that Empire person or not, and how much that would actually change things, who knows? But it's solid. I like it. There's something off about her character. Like I feel like she's got a really cool design, but there's something that just I can't put my finger on it, but it's a little weird.
Her hair.
Maybe
it feels like she belongs. She to me, she felt like she belonged in like the 70s.
Yeah,
which I guess is technically correct when you consider Star Wars originally released in like 77 or something like that.
Yeah.
But even still, she didn't quite feel like she belonged. Her hair made her feel old in the sense of, from an era bygone.
Sure.
Which didn't fit with the rest of the game's aesthetic.
That might have been it.
Also, her hair was... Her hair also, like it said in the beginning, that it was like every game does. It was said that this isn't final,
right?
Like presentation quality,
right.
And so you could see a little bit of things that were messed up with her hair specifically. But ultimately, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I wonder how much RPG aspects are in it. Like, are there going to be skills? Are there going to be leveled ups, or is it going to be?
Yeah, who knows, man.
It'll be interesting to see how it comes.
Unfortunately, we've got at a minimum 7 months before we see that game come out because it said 2024, and that's all we got out of it. But I'm stoked. I'm always down for more Star Wars stuff. Love Star Wars. On the flip, speaking of a character that doesn't quite look right, and a game that definitely isn't in game, Fable. We finally got something.
Yes.
Not a whole lot. We got a great actor. I love the actor in that. I love him in the IT Crowd. If you guys haven't seen the IT Crowd, it's a hilarious British comedy on Netflix. It's fucking fantastic. The giant from Fable is in it, and he's great.
The trailer was really odd to me. They're actually, I don't know how to put this. They actually, when I say Xbox, Microsoft announced that every single thing at their show was going to be in game, which was complete BS because there was multiple cinematic trailers. That I can't remember what it's called, but that one that takes place in Louisiana, the Bayou game or whatever. That was all a CG trailer, and that wasn't the only one. There was one or two others. Anyways. This was clearly the majority of it was either a cutscene, even if it was in-game cutscene, it was still clearly not gameplay.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of scenes or whatever in the game where it showed her fighting, and I'm like, okay, that looks like it could be combat and like in-game combat, but it felt more like cinematic combat in the sense of like target footage.
Right.
I guess would be the best way to put it. And no, there's no way. I mean, if it's real, then that game's either going to be really small with very little going on at any given time, or it's going to be the best looking game ever. Like, there's no way. I don't see it happening.
So here's the thing. I could see that being PC footage. I don't see it being Xbox Series X footage.
PC running on a 4090.
Maybe, yeah. But no, I don't. First of all, the character design for her, I don't know what they were thinking. She looks awful. I really hope that's like somebody making a character to make them look awful. I don't know what that was, but not a fan of the character design. The overall trailer gave us nothing in terms of release window or anything. It might as well be the flyover from Elder Scrolls 6 that said, hey, this is a game. Maybe.
Yeah.
The Forza devs are great, but I don't buy that that's in-game as you play footage. It's just not. Like, no. The devs have come out and said otherwise. I'm not sold on that either. The devs have come out and said otherwise, but here's my response to that.
They have.
Okay, let's see something else then. Show us some off-the-screen footage.
Yeah, not just that. Show us actual gameplay in the sense of, like, you can see the HUD, you can see someone holding the controller and playing, like, something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If that's gameplay, then you have a playable vertical slice at the very least. Show us.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective for another Microsoft studio, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, or no, Senua's, whatever the second one is, Hellblade 2. Senua's Saga, that's what it is. The very first time they ever showed it off, they're like, look, this is the power of the Xbox. And clearly it's not real because they've shown off 2 gameplay vertical slices since then.
Yeah.
And both times the quality has dropped from the initial video they ever showed. The very first one they showed of, quote, gameplay was literally a walking sim. Nothing happened other than your character walked and shit was going on around her. But then this most recent one, another cinematic essentially, but like nothing happened in it. But even there, the gameplay quality or graphical quality fidelity was lowered compared to the initial trailer.
Yeah, and Mike says video or Mike says video or it didn't happen. And just to compare this to another game that there was a massive internet argue over whether it was real footage or video game. Unrecord came out and posted real video of them developing the game to show that was in game. So, hey, Fable developers, if that's really in game, show us, prove us wrong, because right now no one on the internet is nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I want Fable to be great.
Yes.
I don't even care if it looks. I don't even care if it looks that good. Just give me a dang game that's fun.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd like it to be that good, and hell, that might even make me buy an Xbox.
No,
or really not.
Just get it on PC.
But,
you know. But here's the thing: if you're gonna make that claim, you got to put your money where your fucking mouth is, right? You got to put your fucking money where your mouth is. And if the internet's saying bullshit, you need to go, check my work. So that's on them. I hope it's great. I do. I hope that there's either a male character that doesn't look like it got smashed face into a brick wall at 30 miles an hour, or at least a character creator so I can make a female character that doesn't look like her face got smashed into a wall at 30 miles an hour. But I guess we'll see.
This might get me canceled, but maybe they're just going for the typical British woman.
Maybe. I don't know. I think I did see one comment that said it seems like video game devs are now competing to see who can make the ugliest female characters in video games, which maybe it's that whole push.
Have you ever seen a woke person get prettier?
Yeah, we're getting into a whole different realm there, but like there's some interesting design choices at the team at Fable for that one. Not to say that like,
let's just hope as a character creator that you can actually design your character. They've never done that in a Fable before, but these days it makes sense for them to do that. I don't see why they wouldn't.
I'm gonna just say, if there's an option to toggle helmet on and off, it's always going to be on.
There you go. That works too.
So we're going to go ahead and move along. Let's talk about, because we're already running out of time. I want to get to this one before we get to our Patreon exclusive stuff later. Let's talk about Starfield. And we'll end this episode with Starfield. Bag over her head or what, Mike says. Yeah. Starfield, I was actually impressed. Now, every time they said that this is a, what did they say? I believe the quote was, "This is a Bethesda game through and through." My response every time was, does that include the bugs? Because no Bethesda game launches well.
It 100% will. I mean, maybe it's going to be less buggy than the previous ones, but it's still going to be really buggy. I have absolutely no doubt. It's not going to launch in a, say, Diablo 4 state. It's not going to happen.
No.
Now the trailer was actually a good one. This is the first good trailer they've released.
Yeah.
Wow, that actually looks like something that would be interesting. However, there's still something about the game that just doesn't sell me, because it's clear they're going for a No Man's Sky style video game, but more tailored with their flair of, Fallout or Elder Scrolls or whatever. I don't know. There's something about the game that's just keeping me from being like, heck yeah, I want that game. And right now I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. It feels really, I don't want to say empty, but almost hollow. Like, it looks gorgeous, don't get me wrong, it looks beautiful. Most of the game looks beautiful. Character skins look really plasticky. Everything else looks great, but like the
that's your typical Bethesda game.
Yeah, like it like the shading on skin looks like plastic men. Not a fan of that.
What I'm really hoping for is conversations with NPCs that when they're done talking, they just turn and walk out of the camera like always.
Classic Skyrim.
I hope that happens.
I like that the universe. There's a lot about it I do like, right? So I like the ship builder, but first of all, let me say this: if I can't make the Millennium Falcon, 0 out of 10. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, there is a ship creator though, isn't there? So
yeah.
I hope you can make something similar at least.
Yeah.
My real question is they said there's going to be 1,000 planets in the game, which is a lot.
That's
of planets
a lot. Yeah.
They just recently said the other day they're not going to be. They didn't say this specifically, but they basically said they're not going to be as barren and samey as No Man's Sky. They didn't specifically mention No Man's Sky, but they basically said it won't be that. And so they actually even specifically mentioned that there'd be some handcrafted stuff in there. But how can you handcraft 1,000 planets? Like that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of procedural generation, but more varied procedural generation. But they've handcrafted some buildings or ruins or whatever it may be, and they'll be interspersed in these planets. Because I don't think anyone's going to explore all 1,000. But maybe a couple hundred. I can see, but
if that
1,000, I don't see that. But that just goes to show you, like, how much of the game is really going to be tailored. If there's 1,000 planets, that's a massive game.
So,
or how big are these planets really?
So my understanding, from what they're doing with the handcrafted, is what you'll find on the planet is handcrafted. The planet itself might not be. So similar to like Dungeons and Dragons, right? When you play D&D and you are not the dungeon master, the dungeon master creates a story, and whether you follow that story or not is kind of the player's choosing. It's the DM's responsibility to push his content towards you regardless. So the DM is going to go, okay, this is the story I want you to play. This is the story you're playing. I'm going to move my plans to align where you're at to push you the direction I want you to go. And it almost sounds like that's what they're doing with Starfield, where like they don't have the same planets. Like you and I could go to the same planet and have two completely different experiences based on our origins, our choices, what we've done in the game, from the sound of it, right? Like this is what it sounds like. So the world is going to be procedurally generated, but the content that's on there is going to be to a certain extent handcrafted. So like, I don't know. That's like kind of the
city that has all the quests in it might be on different planets, but it's going to be the same ultimate content. Not necessarily that, but that's sort of what you're suggesting.
Sure. So like
I might be on a paradise planet that looks like Earth, and you might be on a desolate planet, but the cities will still be there, and that's where all the content is, and that's where all the side characters are, etc.
So I'm assuming
I can see something like that.
I'm assuming the major cities are probably going to be in the same place, but like say Mars is in the game. If you go to Mars, you might find an abandoned mine or something. If I go to Mars, I might end up finding an outpost that's been raided by bandits, right? Like same planet, different content. That's kind of what my takeaway was from it. But yeah, like it'll be interesting to see what they do. 1,000 planets though, dude, that's fucking huge. And,
it's pretty big.
It almost feels like that game made me go, man, I wish there was co-op, because there's so much to do in that game. Between base building, you got your outposts, you've got your ship, you've got star battles with other pirates and other NPCs, to steal ships, to blow them up, to like, dude, there's so much that I'm like, okay, when is it too much, and when have you basically made a single player MMO? Because that's almost what it feels like.
Yeah. So. What I'm hopeful for is that there's going to be basically a Skyrim or Fallout-esque main storyline, which they've said there's going to be, but like good enough for me to actually care about, but enough side content to keep me interested. That's going to be, I guess, not necessarily diverse enough, but I guess procedurally generated to keep me continuing to play it, finding all these secrets and these different areas and things of that sort, enough to get people to continue playing it, so it eventually gets multiplayer the way No Man's Sky did. Because No Man's Sky launched without multiplayer, and eventually they slowly implemented it into the game, and now it's a live service game that's completely free once you bought the game.
Yeah,
I don't expect that out of say this, but enough, like if they continue to develop it and implement some sort of, even if it's just a co-op, it would be such a way to keep people playing it for long periods of time.
Mike says No Man's Sky has so many procedurally generated planets. It would take 100 or so lifetimes to visit every single one. Yeah, I don't see that being the case with Starfield. I also think that the variation in Starfield is going to be different, because I feel like they crafted the planets, or at least built a better generating content procedural generator nonsense.
1,000 is a whole lot less than 18 quintillion.
Yes,
so they can build variability a lot easier for sure. Although No Man's Sky has done a really good job of adding variability into their planets over time.
Yeah, that game has definitely delivered the longer it's gone on. But I'm interested in Starfield. I think, honestly, that might be the first game Microsoft puts out this entire generation that might make people who don't have a gaming PC or an Xbox go, oh, that actually looks really good.
Yeah.
I really do.
To be fair, it's not really Microsoft, it's Bethesda. Yes. Microsoft just said, you made this? I made this.
I made this, yeah. That's true. It's true.
But, I mean, I guess that's how pretty much the majority of their games are these days. Well, in any case, it's theirs, and you're correct. I think it will, hopefully. I hope it's the case, because they need something really good, and this looks like it could be that.
I'll say this, man. I want that fucking watch. I fucking want that goddamn watch. I want it so bad. I was like, that thing is so goddamn cool. I want that fucking watch.
Is that from the Starfield Direct that was like 45 minutes long? Did you watch that?
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I didn't watch that one.
Oh, dude,
I need to, but I didn't watch that one.
It's good. It's worth watching. They talk about all the stuff. Like I said, man, I expect it to be buggy as hell when it launches, because that's Bethesda's thing. Release the game, let the community fix it. But at the same time, I also expect a ton of really cool fucking mods for it. So that's the trade-off there, right? Yeah. So I think ultimately it'll be a good game. Whether it'll be good on day one or not, we'll see.
Do you know if they said anything about official mod support day one, or
they have not that I saw? I didn't see anything on it, but it's Bethesda, and every single game they've ever released has. See, here's my thing, right? I've played Skyrim about 12.5 times. I've never once played the story. Not once. I immediately go off and just do everything else. Like, I wander, I go dungeon diving, I just go do other shit. So I'm actually kind of hoping that Starfield has a good enough story that I actually bother to play it. So
I would say Skyrim had a good story 12 years ago, or however long it was, but I don't know. I actually never really got super deep into. I did play the side stuff. I got the platinum for it on PlayStation 3 back then.
Damn.
But
throwing it back.
I don't know. I was never able to play the game. Once I beat the game and got the platinum, I think I put like 170 hours, something like that, into it. I never went back. I tried, but I never went back.
That's because you didn't have it on PC with mods. Mods make that game a million times better, man. I
do have it on PC. I actually downloaded the mods that turned it into an entirely different game, and I still couldn't play it. It's just because it's dated. It's just such a dated engine at this point.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, that's gonna wrap up our free side tonight. We have some pitch Patreon exclusive topics we'll talk about over there for our Patreon listeners. You can join our Patreon over at patreon.com/CoinDropPod. And we will not be doing an after party tonight because Tim's internet is trash, but I will be streaming Diablo 4, and we'll see if my hardcore character dies again. For our audio listeners, it's a pretty common thing that we do a after party on Saturday nights. So if you're bored Saturday nights moving forward, Patreon Shrill, as Mike says, you can watch us there at our Twitch at twitch.tv/CoinDropVets. We also post
and come to the Discord.
Yep, and come to the Discord.
Come to the Discord. We give away free games.
Well, Tim gives away free games. I don't. You fucking got to work for your games if you want a game from me. I'm just kidding. But anyways, you can catch us there. Join our Discord. We'd love to chat with you, hang out, play some games, talk. As well as these videos get posted to our new YouTube channel at youtube.com/CoinDropVods, VODS, on Wednesdays when the audio version goes live. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys next time.
Good night.